Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome to our show. We have gathered together from the cosmic reaches of the multiverse, two of the nerdiest geeks to be found. We proudly present the professor and her geeky girlness herself, Ace. And now it's time. GeekyKOOL presents Professor and Ace.
Hey guys, it's Professor and Ace. I believe this is episode 24 for those of you keeping track. It actually will tell you when you're watching it what one it is. I think it's 24. So
That's crazy.
I know. It's been a lot of fun. We're going to continue on today with our looking at some classic movies and giving you our favorites. Before we do, just wanted to mention a few things. One thing on GeekyKOOL, I wrote an article about. I write a lot.
I know.
I wrote an article about the Karate Kid and about who the real villain is. So check that out because there's been a lot of talk going on out there about the Karate Kid and especially with
Johnny's not the villain. And here's the thing about it. We did the same thing as you did. We binge watched all 3 seasons of Cobra Kai when it came out on Netflix. And then the week later, Spoo was like, we should watch the originals.
Mm-hmm.
I've always thought Daniel, he did not help his situation whatsoever. They both make very bad choices in the Karate Kid movies. And Daniel has a temper. And he's a hothead, and he does stupid shit. Johnny is still a bully. Yep,
that's exactly right.
The thing with it is, Johnny is a bully, but as with all bullies, most bullies have reasons that they're a bully.
Yeah,
and you don't get to see that in the original Karate Kid movie because you just see Daniel's side of it.
Right.
So yeah, and I do agree with Barney Stinson that the Karate Kid. I actually don't think Daniel LaRusso is the Karate Kid, but I don't agree with him on the fact that the Karate Kid is actually Mr. Miyagi.
Oh, there you go.
He's the only one who has lived his whole life by the karate rules. And so he is the original Karate Kid.
There you go.
But, yes.
Anyway. Well, thanks. I sat down and I just went through it. I'm like, okay, so let's look at this because there's been a lot of talk about who really is the hero of that. And as I remembered, it definitely is Daniel. Daniel makes some stupid choices, but having been a kid that was bullied all my life, and I know you faced some of that too. Yep. Sometimes when you get a chance to lash out at your bully, you take it even if it's stupid when you do it.
You do. The only issue I have is, and I seriously have never once thought that either one of them were good role models. You go back and watch it.
Yeah.
They're just not.
Right. But they're teenage boys, which is going to be.
And Allie, here's the problem I have with Cobra Kai. And I'm going to get into this just because you brought this article up because it's a great article and you guys should go read it. But the problem I have with Cobra Kai is they're both, this is how many years later and they're both still focusing on Allie? They're both stuck in 1984 is what Spoo says.
Hey, you know what? There's nothing wrong with being stuck in 1984. I'll defend that all day long.
But being so Johnny blaming his whole life on the fact that Daniel stole Allie, and then in which you can't steal a person. Let's just put that out there for everyone. If a person is not with you, a person is not with you.
Right. And clearly she was not with him.
Yes. Second thing is Daniel, though, has a wife and 2 children and a successful business, but still apparently stalks her on Facebook. So
he has not gone as far as to ask her to be friends. He's just gone out and checked on her.
It would have been better if he would have asked to be friends.
Then
maybe. It's not stalking. Then it's just someone you went to school with asking you to be friends.
Yeah, I think he's kind of drawn a line there for himself. That's the problem. So
he's a married man.
He is a.
2 other movies after that didn't, like, they barely mentioned Allie. Like, Allie went off to college. Okay.
Well, actually, Allie dumped him and then went off to college.
Yeah,
right. So, but yes. Well, and I do understand. Your first love is always one of those that kind of brings you back. So.
Not mine.
Okay, not always. Anyway, I just wanted to mention it because I thought that was a fun article. I spent a lot of time working on that because I wanted to really kind of research, because it's been in Cobra Kai season 1 makes definitely points why Johnny is not the villain of Cobra Kai. Now, Johnny does a lot of stupid things. No, and Daniel's really not either.
No, here's the thing. In both the original and this, ego and temper are the villains. They both have their egos. They both have their tempers. And they're both so similar. The dinner scene with when they go out to eat and they're stuck next to each other and they're joining, that shows you that they are so similar.
Yeah.
And so it's
when they're sitting in the bar after test driving the car, and exactly. It basically, it completely. So, all right, we'll leave that alone for now.
We'll talk about it later.
We'll talk about it later. I just wanted to mention it for people watching that I wrote that article because I'm pretty proud of all the time I put into it and watching it. So, the other thing I wanted to mention was, unfortunately, an announcement. Eddie Van Halen passed away today, and very sad news. So, wish I could have did our intro to Jump or Hot for Teacher or something like that, but because of copyright restrictions, and we don't want to have to pay them thousands of dollars to put it on here. Rest in peace, Eddie Van Halen. Right. Yeah. Good luck in getting that. So, anyway, just wanted to mention that also, and very, very sad news for those of us that are still stuck in 1984, which, by the way, was a great album.
Was a great album, and when he said that, and when I said that, I knew you would bring that point up, especially with the passing. So yeah.
Well, I had to jump into it. All right.
Oh my God. You went there.
Oh yeah. All right. So we took a look at our favorite movies from just a 5-year period of 1940 to 1944. That half of a decade had some awesome, amazing movies. And to get a list narrowed down, my number 5 rotated around 3 or 4 times before I decided what it was. My top 4 kind of wrote themselves, but man, I wanted to add so many movies in. I
have a couple honorable mentions.
Yeah.
I had 3. But I knew one of them was going to be on your list, so I didn't even write it down. Because I know that movie is going to be on your list for 1940. But and the thing is there were so many. We talked last week about 1939. So many amazing movies just that year alone. When you go back and you research what movies came out in what years, it's amazing to me. One, how many I've seen, and 2, it's amazing to me the storytelling ability.
Yes.
That they had, and that they because a lot of the movies that are on my list, I think actually 2 of them are huge visual, like costumes and stuff like that. 3 of them are huge on that. The other 2 are pieces that go through lifetimes. They have great stories and they have great costumes because they go through like 2 people's lifetimes.
Right.
And actually, 3 of my 5 are basically based on somebody's life. And so I love that story, those stories that tell the intricacies of a lifetime. And we don't get those things anymore, hardly at all.
We don't. Not, at least not told well.
No, I mean they've done some, and you know, like About a Boy was, or not About a Boy, the one where they actually took the story, the little boy, and they
Yeah,
filmed.
right.
Can't remember. It's Boy or something. It's something like that. But it was like very close to this. This is just done with makeup and everything, but it's such great storytelling. And if you guys haven't watched movies from this time period, especially that late 30s to late 40s time period, hit me up. I will give you a list of like ones that I think, besides these, the ones that I think you should watch, based on what kind of movies you like now. So, because you know, they have some great. There are some great action movies. There's some great war movies. There's some great romance movies. Like all of those things. And yeah. So, but are you ready for your list, Professor?
I'm ready. Are you ready?
I am. So my list, though, I don't have any specific order. I do have my top one. But the rest of them, like you said, yours, they wrote themselves, but you kind of like the fifth one rotated.
Yep.
I love movies so much; it's hard sometimes to go, this one's better than this one.
Yeah, I understand. Well, and sometimes it's better for whatever reason. This one resonates with me, and I just love it just a little bit more.
Yeah, I get that.
All right, so what's the number 5 or one of those ones that you've got there?
All right, so why don't I go with my 2 honorable mentions?
Okay.
You can't talk about 1940s movies, like the early 40s movies, without bringing this one up. I figured you might have it on your list somewhere. But if you ask somebody, watch a 1940s movie, this is the first movie that people think of, and it's Casablanca.
Yep, number 1 on my list. Number 1. Numero uno.
Yeah, beautifully shot.
Yes.
Script was wonderful. The chemistry. Humphrey Bogart is not my favorite actor from that time period, but what he does in this movie is amazing. And but just the love story, but mixed with politics, that this movie, and intrigue, but without being like overtly like we're a murder mystery, you know, like film noir kind of thing. But it still gives you that feeling of there's mystery and there's that intrigue. It's beautiful, and it has to be on. It has to at least be an honorable mention, and it's number 1 on your list. So
it is. Humphrey Bogart is one of my all-time favorite actors, and I know he's not necessarily there for you. I've never seen a Humphrey Bogart movie that I disliked. So I've never ever seen one.
Actors that I resonate with.
Oh, sure. No, and I get that. He's just, I don't know who would be above him over all time. So to me, he's that guy that I just think is the essence of cool, the essence of a great actor, watching him act, and I love the roles he's in. But in this movie, the interesting thing is the love stories between 2 people that can't be in love.
They can't.
She's married, right? And the whole reason she comes to Humphrey Bogart's character, Rick, is to get her husband, Victor, out of the country because they're in Morocco, which is overrun with the Nazis, and they are rebels against that. And they're basically going to be killed if they stay. So she has to find her ex-love, whom we kind of figure out they're still in love with each other.
But she is in love with him, but she's in love with her husband too.
She is, yeah.
But more important is that she's in love with the idea of what her husband can accomplish.
Right.
If he's still alive.
Right. And that's true.
And if she stays with Humphrey Bogart, she's not a part of that. She can't help him do that. And stuff, and so it's a sacrifice, but it's really intriguing because it was a huge movie when it came out, and if you think about the time period where it came out, to have the love interest in a movie, the 2 love interests being a married woman, and an ex-boyfriend, like that's a huge statement, and it gets glossed over a lot, or it did back then a lot, just because the story is so beautiful.
Right. Right. And that's exactly right. Now, and at the end where she's got the chance to stay with him and that whole speech, I mean, that's just kind of a perfect thing. And you really feel sorry for Rick in that situation, but he's telling her what really has to happen. You really need to go be with your husband, do what's needed to do. I'm going to stay here and run my bar and kind of help things behind the scenes.
Right. Because he's a reluctant hero. He is not a hero.
No,
if
right.
it was anybody else coming to him, he might not have done it. Like,
right.
Let's face it. It's because it's Ingrid Bergman.
Right. Well, yeah,
you would do anything for her. Look at your face. Oh my gosh, that was funny.
Well, and Dooley Wilson as Sam is amazing.
Yes.
And played against exactly, and Claude Rains as the Nazi captain, Louis Renault. He's that role and that interesting dichotomy of where they're almost friends,
but they're not.
But they're not. I mean, that's been used so much afterwards. That is such a great thing.
Do you want to hear something amazing?
Yeah.
So your number one pick, I'm just going to go into my number one because you brought Claude Rains up. And Claude Rains is actually in my number one movie. And in Casablanca, he plays, he's working with the Nazis.
Right.
But he's not. You know what I mean? He is, but he's not. He's not like full on.
Right.
Helping control them in Morocco. In my number one movie, puts him in same time period at the end of the movie. It is one of those that goes through the whole life. It stars Bette Davis. And she is this beautiful, Scarlett O'Hara. I think it was her Scarlet moment because she was up for Scarlet and she didn't get Scarlet. But she's this beautiful woman that all the men love and they are all chasing after her. And, and she marries Claude Rains because he's rich.
Mm-hmm.
And he loves her. And he sees her for who she is. And she's not a great person, but he sees her, Mr. Skeffington. He sees her for who she is. And it's this amazing story of her aging. And Mr. Skeffington, she ignores him. She ignores Claude Rains because he is just basically funding her life. That's all she cares about is her brother. And she marries Skeffington to save her brother. Because her brother owes money. And that's all she has is her beauty. And she thinks Skeffington wants to marry her for her beauty. But he actually wants to marry her because he's in love with her. She does not feel the same way. They do have a daughter. And she does not like the idea of being a mother. She doesn't want to age. It's very much the picture of Dorian Gray, where she does not want to age. However, she doesn't have a magic picture, and she does age. Her daughter grows up, wants to get married. She tries to steal her daughter's boyfriend or fiance. Like, she flirts with him. Like, she never sees herself as getting old.
Right.
Claude Rains leaves at one point and goes to Europe to help because in this movie, Claude Rains is actually Jewish. And he is trying to help the resistance fight against the Nazis in Germany and in Britain and trying to get that worked out. And she doesn't seem to care. She doesn't seem to care that her husband is gone. Her daughter leaves. That hits her a little bit more. People around her start passing away. And then she invites all her old beaux back because she thinks she's still the belle of the ball. And they're all old men who are married and happy with their lives. And yes, they want to see her because, she was this ideal first love that you were talking about. They show up there and she walks down the stairs and she's this old woman. And no one when they were young plays an old woman like Bette Davis plays an old woman when she was young.
Right.
Bette Davis plays an old woman beautifully.
She does.
In her 20s. I'm sorry. And Claude Rains comes back and he's blind because he's been tortured by the Nazis. And she at the end realizes that he still says that she's the most beautiful woman he's ever seen, and it has that moment where she realizes he's blind, and he's not seeing her face, he's seeing her soul.
Right.
The story of that movie is just it's like a 40-year span in the life of a very selfish woman who has, you know, an amazing life, but it's a typical life for a wealthy, good-looking woman back then. It's not like extraordinary.
Right.
And, but Claude Rains, that movie is, I would say, Claude Rains is one of those actors. He's that guy. He's that guy actor of his time. He is in. If you look at Claude Rains movies,
oh yeah,
he is in lots and lots of movies. He's a secondary character. He's a supporting actor. This was when this movie though.
He was the Kevin Bacon of that time. He
was totally like, you know the name and you see the face, but you don't always connect them and stuff.
Right.
If you haven't seen this movie, you should. It is a longer movie. 1940s, they did longer movies or really short movies. There was no in between.
There's not a lot.
But Bette Davis is stunning in it. And I have 2 Bette Davis movies on my list. But I could have made my whole list on Bette Davis movies.
I understand that. No. In fact, we had talked about last time about not having any Bette Davis movies being a problem. So yeah. I was really glad to see that you added Bette Davis movies because I didn't, and I was like, what am I doing here?
Sweet Charlotte almost made the list.
Yep. Yes.
Now Voyager almost made the list. Last week we had Essex almost made the list. Elizabeth and Essex. There were so many movies that almost made the list, and it's very sad. When we get into the 50s, my all-time favorite movie, and that's a big statement from me, is a Bette Davis movie from the 50s, and so it will be on my list then.
All right, sounds good. Okay. Well, let me throw one of mine out that's not my number one. That you.
Number one.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, and that was easy because you tossed it out, and I'm like, okay, we'll go with that. So, but I'll go here's what I picked for number 5. And number 5, like I said, was a little more difficult for me. I went back and forth, and I'll tell you what ones I almost picked instead. But this one, I just came back to it and like, okay, it really has to be this one because this is perfect for the time frame. It is. Here's our Charlie Chaplin movie, but it's a very different Charlie Chaplin than what we were expecting, because Charlie Chaplin is not just the funny guy in the silent movie.
Yeah.
Right. The Great Dictator is a fantastic movie. If somebody's not seen that, speaks volumes about what goes on with racism, with all of that. I mean, it's just an amazing movie. Charlie Chaplin plays both the hero and the villain at the same time in this movie.
He does. And Paulette, beautiful woman.
Yes.
She
definitely.
And the thing with it is, it's kind of like, you have to think about it this way. Charlie Chaplin was the tramp. He was. Yes. That's what he was. He was not known for anything else, hardly at all. He was a brilliant man. He was also like a little bit of a sleazeball in personal life.
I've heard that. Yeah.
I've been married several times and everything, which is no problem. I've been married several times. But the thing is this was Charlie Chaplin. If you know his family history, his half brother is Jewish. And so he really, really wanted to make a statement about the war and about like what he saw going on. And the thing is people now, you think Hitler and you think, oh well, Hitler is this evil man and everybody hated him, but there was a time when Hitler was the man of the year, the Times man of the year.
Time was it 39?
Yep.
Yeah.
He just a couple years before he took over, he was considered this amazing person who was doing such great things with his country. And then we found out what he was actually doing with his country. And Charlie Chaplin, you know, had friends and family over there, and he knew things were going on that we didn't know. That movie is also one of the things that blacklisted Charlie Chaplin. That's why he had to move out of the country. That's why he was considered a communist. You know, that's the thing. It's that movie is not just a great movie. It is a great movie, but it's not just a great movie. It is a moment in time, captured in an amazing way. So
and that's why I went with it. That's why that one won out. Was I'm like, what speaks to the early 40s more than this movie when you've got Hitler going on over here? And funny that he doesn't. The character is not Hitler in the movie. It's Adrian Heinkel. So it's close to Hitler, and we know it's supposed to be Hitler, but he's not called Hitler. Right, exactly.
But the thing is, and it was a jab at Hitler. Like, it was not
very much so.
There was no underlining, we're gonna do this little thing. No, he was like, this man is terrible, and that we have to do this. Like, that is what this was. And now you look back on it and you're like, well, I don't understand why everybody didn't love this movie and why they didn't see this and stuff. But it wasn't that time yet. It was still a little early for everyone to think Hitler was an evil man.
Right.
So good for Charlie Chaplin for putting his principles before his popularity. He lost a lot of stuff with this. He lost the ability to live in a country he loved. He couldn't live here anymore. He literally left the country because he got blacklisted with the whole blacklist after.
Which is crazy. I mean, that whole thing is.
We should do it. We should do things on that one day.
That would be a really interesting thing. So so that was my number 5. Let me share just and I won't go into details about them other than I think they're amazing movies also that almost made my number 5. Actually, I'll give you one because you give me one honorable mention. Let me give you one of my honorable mentions here. Let me find the one I'm looking for. Come on. There it is, right here.
Double Indemnity.
Yep. This is also, and I do love me some noir movies. This is a great one. So
it was one that I went around with. I don't have any Barbara Stanwyck movies, and she was just one of those actors. She wasn't like a stunning beauty. Like there are stunning beauties from the time, and one of my movies has a lot of those stunning beauties.
Yes, it does.
But she wasn't. But she was gritty, and she had moxie, and she was just this wonderful thing. So no, I love that movie. It was also on my top 20.
You're right. Guys, you think 5-year period that it should be really easy for us to pick movies, but oh my gosh.
From 1941 alone.
Yeah, I can't. Right, exactly. So
that's a great one.
Yeah, thanks.
We'll go to my number 5.
All right.
Just we talked about The Great Dictator is your number 5. So what is the complete opposite of The Great Dictator? Or at least it was back then. And this is Yankee Doodle Dandy. I love musicals. I am a huge musical person. James Cagney most people think of him as not a musical person. Most of them think of him as a gangster because he has that great vocal
he does.
Boston, I'm gonna beat you up kind of thing. I do not do Boston very well. I don't do accents well.
Oh, you dirty rat, you.
Yeah. But this is true story. Again, it's a life story. It starts from his early teens, and it's Cohan. And if you guys don't know who George Cohan is, then you've never heard Yankee Doodle Dandy.
Right.
But he wasn't just that. He was a wonderful composer. His family was in vaudeville. He he basically, when you think of like Broadway, Broadway wouldn't have happened the way it happened without George Cohan. It
right,
just wouldn't
right. That's
Yankee,
exactly right.
It wouldn't have. And Yankee Doodle Dandy is his life story. It's called Yankee Doodle Dandy because that is like, for the time that this movie came out, it was a song that resonated with most people, and they realized who it was and everything. But the story is just beautiful about him and his father and his mother and his sister, and then the true story is about him and his wife.
Right.
And how much just one person believing in you can just change everything in your world.
That's true.
And make you a better person. And his wife did that for him, and I love their story. I've read several books on their story, but the reason I read the books is because my mom loved James Cagney. She loved those like gangster movies and stuff. And this one, when I was younger, she was like, "It's not his normal one. You'll love it," because I like musicals. So if you guys haven't seen it,
it's a really good musical. It's a lot of fun. I saw it on your list and I went, huh, well, that's interesting, because that would not have been one that I would pick, but I definitely see that because it's a great movie. So
and just a lot of the movies that I pick is like my number 2 movie is they're spectacular to watch.
Right.
A lot of the times we forget, we have CGI and everything. Like I was talking about, like Lon Chaney last week and stuff, and all the makeup and everything. Right. But we forget that set building and all of those things are so important, especially with these older movies. Every little thing is added for a specific reason. Every piece of art. And this movie is fun because it is not only a movie, but it's a movie about being on stage.
Right.
And so you see theatrical, which I love the theater. So you see theatrical aspects of it too. And,
most definitely.
And you get to watch them build productions. And that's part of the movie, is watching them build productions.
Right.
And I love that. I love that background of it and stuff. So, yeah.
Like I said, I'm an old theater guy, so I'm right there with you. It is a really cool thing. It's a great movie. It brings you to that whole theater feel. So that's awesome.
So what's your number 4, Professor?
Well, my number 4 is one that tops a lot of lists of all-time great movies.
Okay.
So I went with the Rosebud itself, Citizen Kane, as my number 4.
So that movie, I have a love-hate relationship with that movie. First time I watched it, I loved it.
Right.
Second time I watched it, not so much. And then each time I've watched it since, I have issues with it. But I think the reason I have issues with it is the critics' problem.
Yeah.
You have movies or music or something, and people are like, "Oh my God, this is the most amazing movie. This is the most amazing song," and then you watch it.
Right.
And you love it.
Builds it up.
But you have this deflated feeling going out of this theater because it's not as good as they said it was going to be.
Right. Well, and the first time I saw this movie was before I knew it was supposed to be a great movie.
Right.
Can I throw in an off-camera critique here?
Sure. Yes.
Sincerely a critique. Don't turn the camera on me. I've been working on a clogged sink, so I look like absolute dog crap right now. But my favorite thing about Citizen Kane is the random bird squawk.
Yeah.
The reason that is in there, literally, is he's like, let's put this bird squawk in here because they actually assumed that the audience would fall asleep during the previous scene. So the bird squawk was there. I kid you not. It's a true story. It's there.
That's interesting.
The audience. That's why there's a random bird squawk out of nowhere, is to wake up the audience that the makers of the film assumed would be asleep in the theater by that time.
That is funny. It is a slow movie. It's a slow burn.
It is.
It's not a quick pace. I think all the other ones we've picked so far, they're not as slow burning.
Well, I agree.
The ones on my list are nearly like that, but it's an important movie.
We went from a musical to this, so here's the reason I love this movie. I love this movie because I wanted to be a writer, and I didn't really know what to do as a writer other than work for a newspaper. So that was kind of those thoughts in my head when I first saw this. Is I want to do this. Plus, I like to investigate things. So that kind of was an idea I was having at one point. So that kind of fed into my desire to kind of look at that as a possible career. And so you have that, and then you also have trying to decipher what this means and trying to figure out what people are bringing, and nobody's quite being real. And I love that sort of stuff because I like to figure things out.
Right.
So it adds that kind of thriller along with the whole newspaper idea. And so you throw those things together along with looking at this guy's life and trying to figure out what was really going on with him. I find that fascinating. So the concept, I love the concept of the movie. I love how it was, how it came across. But it is a slow burn. It is one of those movies. If you're talking about all-time great movies, you need to see it.
List.
Yeah, almost every list has it 1 or 2 or 3 when you start looking at all-time great movies. It's worth seeing.
Did you hear my boyfriend? He
said,
no,
what did he say?
It's the Citizen Kane of movies.
Oh.
This is the yeah.
Well, and I love that Orson Welles directed it and was the character that you're investigating. So it's like, yeah, I'm going to have this movie, and it's going to be all about my character, but I'm going to kill him off right away.
Did you say yeah, so. No, I agree. And the first time I watched the movie, and here's the thing, I'm saying this movie, you should go watch it. If you're a movie buff, you should have seen it. But the first time I watched it, I liked it. I think it's just the hype. It's just it's the Grapes of Wrath kind of thing. Grapes of Wrath is one of those movies that I just don't like as much as I want to. And so it must be on his list because it was one of my honorable mentions that rotated around on number 5. So yeah, but it's a slow burn as well, and
it is.
I understand the need for these stories, and John Steinbeck is one of my favorite American authors of the time.
Mine too.
I prefer Of Mice and Men.
I agree.
That is one of my favorite
books. That is a better story.
Yeah,
I agree.
But no, it's a thing, and so yeah, if you haven't seen these movies, please go out and see them, or rent them, or watch them on streaming, or wherever you can watch them.
Right.
They're worth a watch. So.
I agree.
Let's see.
So we do have a comment. We got a comment from John who's watching us. Hey, John. Good to see you, man. John's one of our contributors over on GeekyKOOL, so hopefully you'll be seeing more from John coming up soon. I know things are a little crazy, and his fiance's just got her book published. Yeah. So yeah, we'll have to bring them on some point. But so hey, John, glad to see you, man. And feel free to throw in some comments here on what you think.
Your favorites, why do you like them, that sort of thing. Anybody who's watching, please let us know if you like or agree with us, or if you disagree with us, or if you have one that don't bring up, because like we said, I think Professor and I probably could have made a top 100 from these years and would have still had some that we wanted to put in there.
I agree with it. You'd be like, what? How can you leave that off?
It's the thing. So we got our number 5s. What's your number 5 or 4?
My number 4. That was my number 4. Citizen Kane was number 4.
Citizen Kane was number 4. Okay. Oh yeah. So I'm next.
You're next.
We're trying to keep this on. My next one is actually another Bette Davis one. Bette Davis is my number 1 with Mr. Skeffington, because I will watch that movie over and over again. But it's All This and Heaven 2. This movie is, I love period pieces. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not a huge Charles Boyer fan, but in this movie, he always has this like very arrogant, regal thing about him when he acts, but it makes sense in this role. It's such a beautiful, beautiful movie, and it's she plays this, I don't know, Betty Davis could play like a Jezebel in Jezebel, or she can play this sweet, innocent, wonderful, kind, caring person, and still has this sexuality about her that intrigues men, which is, it's very unlikely in Hollywood at the time. They were either the girl next door, the like sassy moxie one, like or they were the beauty. Betty Davis somehow bridged those things into a character and a persona that is amazing. This movie is also a love story, but with very Jane Eyre like meaning. She is hired to be a teacher to this man's children. His wife is not, she's still alive and all this, but she is not kind. She does not love him. She does not love the children. And it becomes a huge scandal because his wife ends up dead. And their relationship is then under a microscope. And it's just about what you're willing to give up for love, what you're willing to put up with for love, and how much you want to stand by somebody. And the story is just, it's beautifully written. The costumes are amazing. It's not the most grand movie on my list. It's not even, it's a very just simple story, but done in a way that's intriguing and everything. So I love that movie. So have you ever seen it?
That's good. I have seen it. Yes. It's a good movie.
That some of my lists were not ones you would have seen, so I was like worried about that. But.
Well, here's what I did when long before cable. Well, not before cable. I didn't have cable. I didn't have much money when in my 20s or even in my 30s. So a lot of times it's sort of going and renting a movie at Blockbuster, which was kind of expensive back then. And then you had to make sure it's back. I would go check out movies at the library, and they had this great list of classic movies. And so I watched a lot of these. Now, when my parents finally got cable when we moved to town, I ended up watching a lot of classic movies there also. I remember sitting in to watch The Godfather and having to go to work in 2 hours and getting sucked into that movie to where I'm like, So then I had to record, put the VHS tape in and record the last half of it because I'm like, I can't go to work without knowing what happens.
I had so many movies on VHS tapes that I had recorded from Turner Classic Movies, like watching it. And it wasn't like I was selling them or anything like that. It was just because I wanted to see what they ended up.
Oh, right.
Got DVRs.
Right.
To me, this is mind-boggling that I've lived through all this, and that my grandkids and like stepdaughter have no idea what I'm talking about. But when we had DVRs, I would go through the weekly guide on Turner Classic Movies, and I would DVR every movie I hadn't seen.
See, that's awesome.
I'm a nerd.
That's why we have our show. But yeah, so no, I have seen it. It's a good movie. It's a really good movie. It's interesting because if you make a romance movie today, I'm really not interested in modern romance movies very much, especially the rom-coms. I'll sit through it. That's fine, but it doesn't do anything. You make a classic movie like this, I'm all in. I find that the romance was better back then.
Well, and the thing is it's more realistic. They have comedy. They have comedy moments. They have serious moments. They wrote stories not to be a specific genre.
Right.
Unless it was like, gangster movie or something like that. But like the dramas and the comedies, and not the slapstick, but the other comedies or stuff, they just had the storytelling.
They wrote movies because they had a story to tell, not because they wanted to cash a paycheck.
These are our conversations too, by the way.
Well, some of them did want to cash a paycheck, but
they still also had a story to tell.
Yeah.
Right. Well, they certainly did.
The other thing is like we've talked about the remakes and how many times that movies that people are like, this is an amazing movie. It's actually a remake from something.
Right. That was also amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I saw somewhere the other day somebody had said we should not remake great movies. We should remake bad movies that are from a great story to make it a great movie. I'm like, oh, well, that's true.
That is true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't even imagine some of my lists being remade today.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I can't either. So I'm going to go with my number 3. Going back to the well, going back to my boy, Humphrey Bogart, who I've told you, I love the death. I just think this to me, it speaks volumes for that time period. And that would be The Maltese Falcon, my favorite detective movie of all time. It's so much fun. This movie basically sets that whole private eye mentality perfectly in a movie form.
Well, and it's been used.
Yes.
The whole premise of every movie since, whether it be like every detective movie since, whether it be a serious detective movie or a comedy detective movie, they use parts of this movie in it.
They do.
It is a blueprint to a detective movie that is still being used. And so that's a huge, huge thing. So
I agree.
I like that movie a lot. And that's one of those movies that I was talking about with every scene has things strategically placed.
It does.
If you watch the movie and you've never seen it and you just want the story, do that. Then go back and watch it. And you get all these interesting little clues that aren't noticeable while you're watching the movie. So it's beautifully shot too. And
the thriller, the intrigue that's weaved into it, the who's really going to backstab you now sort of thing, it's just beautifully done. The whole idea that Detective Sam Spade has this beautiful woman show up, mysterious, trying to look for this great thing that's missing, and it ends up being a murder. I mean, the whole thing. Peter Lorre's in there. Of course, Mary Astor is your beauty that shows up. This movie, 1941. So he does this, and then he does Casablanca. It's just amazing to me how awesome that is.
And the thing with the Mary Astor is, a lot of people might not even know who she is, who are watching. She doesn't have the big name like Bette Davis and stuff. And she didn't at the time either. She was actually a studio actress. And when I say that, studios owned actresses and actors back then.
Yep.
They owned their contracts. They couldn't work unless they said, and all this stuff. And it was not the choice of casting her was not like something that they thought was going to draw people in. It was not about her.
Right.
It was about Humphrey Bogart. The story, and so they found an attractive enough woman to bring that story to life, but they didn't want another big name.
Right.
It was Humphrey Bogart's story, and to make that point really clear, this is one of the best made movies of the 40s. It is still used today as a blueprint to detective movies, even the comedies, even the Happy Time Murders.
Right.
Puppets comedy still uses the blueprint from the Maltese Falcon. It still does.
Right.
But you would think that would have propelled her into stardom to where she would be an everyday name.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't.
Nope.
Because it wasn't about her. It was about him. I have like a look. There's a she walked in there and then walked back out and then has a look, and I'm not sure.
Uh-oh. Gotta be.
I'm not sure what's going on with it, so I'm gonna let him take care of it, and if I'll take care of it if I have to after we get done here. I don't know. He walks into the kitchen, he walks back, and he's like,
I don't know. Maybe he doesn't like the Maltese Falcon. I don't know.
No, he likes the Maltese Falcon.
I love this movie. It's a great noir movie. Also, of course, I love me some noir, and then you add Humphrey Bogart, so it's that perfect storm for me. Also based off a novel. So we've got a few comments. So we've already said hi to John, and we've got Bill.
Hi, Bill.
Hey, what's going on, Bill? Glad you're here with us. And then, if you smell smoke, run. Yes, if you smell smoke, run. Yes, exactly. And we also have another comment from John.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Us too. It's a thing. It
is. Movies are awesome, especially well-made movies. When you have to look at it and say, what are the ones that most speak to me, and you're having a huge list, or you're just having to cut things off of that speaks volumes.
It kills you.
It does.
On the side with some of the ones I cut off my list, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't. And then I was looking at movies, and I'm like, I think that was the 40s. Oh, it's the late 40s. So
right, exactly. No, I'm with you. So did you see the Maltese Falcon and say, oh, this is going to be on Larry's list also?
I did. Actually, I knew. I did not know Citizen Kane, but I did know. We've talked about your favorite movie being Casablanca, and so and I know you love Humphrey Bogart so much that I knew that the Maltese Falcon had to be on there.
It definitely is. So
I mean, you have 2 Humphrey Bogarts. I have 2 Betty Davises.
See, and I think that's perfect for the the early to mid 40s. You've got 2 bogeys and 2 Betty Davis. I think we're doing well.
Yeah, I agree.
I think we're doing really well. So who's your number 2?
So my number 3.
Who's your number 3? That was my number 3. So who's your number 3?
My number 3 is Mrs. Parkington.
Oh yes.
Love this.
Mrs. Parkington. Let me get that pulled up here.
So, have you seen this movie?
Let me pull it up again and take a look at the picture, because there were. Okay, is that one right here?
Yes.
No, I have not seen this one.
Oh my gosh! So Agnes Moorehead, love her. She is not the main star, but she's in it and she's a supporting character. This is Greer Garson. If you don't know who Greer Garson is, she was considered the Irish Rose. She is this beautiful, tall, lovely English actress who had such moxie. She was not considered beautiful, but I always find her intriguing. And she plays this woman who lives in a boarding house in, I think, Montana. And a rich man, Mr. Parkington, comes to town because he bought the whole coal mine. And he's staying in her boarding house, and she is just mean to him. And of course, the meaner she is to him, the more he falls in love with her.
Right.
And they build an empire together, to the point that it is this, I don't know how to explain it. It's like it's a family dynasty that they build, and it's the story. The story goes for like 50, 60 years. Like, she's 80 when the story's
wow.
over. She has grandchildren and great granddaughter, maybe just a granddaughter, who's in it. But her husband like fights with her. They have all kinds of stuff. They go over to England at one point, and Prince Albert like Queen Victoria's son is
Mm-hmm.
actually an actor plays him in the movie, and everything, and it's just this beautiful story of early America, or well, not early America, but the 1800s America, that translates so well. You get to see so many different like aspects of life, and she becomes this matriarch of this family. But the family, after her husband dies, he is a self-made man. He has not gotten anything, and he always says that the worst way of getting money is inheriting it, because you don't respect it.
Right.
And they don't respect her. Only her granddaughter respects her, and one of her children is in trouble, and the rest of the family don't think that she should help them because it would wipe them out completely.
Right.
Older. And she brings the whole family together and tells the story of her life, and then says, what do you guys think I should do now? And she then makes her choice, and it's beautiful. And the pure storytelling again of this woman's life, and she's just this simple like raisin girl from Montana, and she becomes so much more, but deep down inside she's still like that girl from Montana.
Right.
So it's a great movie. You should totally put it on your list.
I will definitely put that on my list. By the way, you never gave me your what you thought I should watch from my extra list.
I know. I have it, and I've just been so busy at work.
Oh, I know.
So it's just been crazy.
It's all right. It's no big deal. I just wanted to tease you.
But I got a new GM at work, so he started yesterday was his first day. So hopefully I can get some breathing time.
Yeah, so you're not having to work constantly. You're not, going to the coal mines and loading 15 tons. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that reminds me of my mom.
Thanks.
You got a song stuck in Spoof's head.
You're welcome.
What do you get? Another day older and
Bill had a comment for us. Glutton for punishment aren't all men. And yeah.
Fortunately, that's an awesome song.
It is a great song. I agree.
So Professor, what's your number 2? Because we already went over your number 1. So.
Right. How did we skip it to where? Because you were going first, and now I don't.
Did honorable mentions.
Well, okay. All right. Well, let me throw my last honorable mention in. Let me throw my last honorable mention in, and we'll come back and do number 2. Because you already know what number 2 is. So
I do know what your number 2 is.
Because it's a process of elimination there. So one of my last honorable mention I want to throw in, and there could have been a bunch more. I've got a lot longer list.
I have Boomtown on my honorable mention list, and that's a Clark Gable movie. Myrna White, beautiful.
And that movie, I mean, just look at the cast in that movie.
Spencer Tracy, it is amazing. It's the story of friendship and love and everything. Yep. And Hedy Lamarr in it. Whew.
I agree. That is a fun movie. I like that movie a lot. And of course, Hedy Lamarr. I mean, what's not to like? So anyway, so my last one is an honorable mention. And of course, I'm going back again to the noir. I just keep pulling from that and there's so many great noir movies for this time period. But I went with Laura. Laura basically is the story of a detective who is researching Laura's death. And the more he researches it, the more he's talking to people and trying to figure out what happened, the more he falls in love with her. So he's falling in love with the victim of a murder case.
Yeah.
It is a cool movie. And again, I love this sort of movie. It really feeds in. I like the intrigue and the murder. Not that I like people to be murdered, but I love when a story is kind of based around who done it and a murder, and then it's a great noir. It's a great movie. I was sad that and again, it was rotating up to number 5. It was one of those that I was like going, should I do this one? Because all my number 5 potential ones were movies that I really enjoyed, but I didn't really have one that I really But anyway, that's my last honorable mention. So we'll do that.
Did you know when that poster came out? My grandmother told me about this. In the town that she grew up in, when that came out, Jean Tierney and Dana Andrews, the girl is Jean.
Right.
And the guy is Dana.
Right.
And that was a big, big thing. They thought that they messed him up.
Right.
But it has Vincent Price in it.
Yes, it does. Which we needed to get a Vincent Price movie, so here we go.
Yes. Yeah, I'm so glad that you put this one. Yeah, I know. My Vincent Price. Oh my God, so hard to pick movies, guys.
It definitely is. Yeah. So this is a great story. It's a great movie. If you've not seen it, you definitely should go watch it. Especially if you're in that kind of mood where you want a fun noir movie. So, I mean, the whole idea of falling in love with the person who was murdered while you're investigating the murder. It's just such a cool idea. So anyway.
Okay, so we both did an honorable mention. I'll go to my number 2, which is a huge, huge cast of beautifully beautiful women plus amazing actors. It's based on a true story. Again, I'm pulling from Broadway. If you guys don't know, the Ziegfeld Follies were a thing in Broadway, and they made several movies of it. This one is my favorite of it, and it is the Ziegfeld Girls. You have James Stewart, who plays the love interest of Lana Turner. You have Hedy Lamarr. You have Judy Garland, and she plays a vaudeville baby, basically, whose dad wants her to be a star. These women and this movie are one of the reasons I got into making costumes.
I can see that, yeah.
I loved the Ziegfeld Follies. If you Google Ziegfeld Follies, you just think like Vegas Showgirls would not have happened without Ziegfeld.
Right.
Burlesque would have happened, but it would not have been as classy of a thing without Gypsy Rose Lee and the Ziegfeld Follies. It just wouldn't have. This story is about, they follow 3 of the Ziegfeld girls, and how Ziegfeld found his girls. True story is he had like a couple assistants, and he would send them out to the city of New York, and he would have them look for beautiful women. This was their job.
Right.
You would go up and
can I take that job? I like this job. I would be good at this job.
Right? You just find beautiful women who have poise, because you literally had to walk down flights of stairs while music was playing with headpieces that were like huge. The sets on this movie are amazing. The story is amazing. I love Hedy Lamarr's story in this. She basically plays, an immigrant, which she was, who is just known for her beauty. Her husband is a violinist, and she loves him more than anything, and she would do anything for him, but he doesn't like that she becomes a star.
Right.
And so conflict there. Lana Turner she is the sad story in this. She is red, which I think is beautifully ironic, because she actually had naturally red hair, but she went blonde. Anytime you see Lana Turner after color, it's always blonde hair, because the studios made her dye her hair blonde, kind of like Marilyn. But she, in this movie, even though it's black and white, they call her red, so she has red hair. And she plays a young girl who's a elevator operator, who was found, and her boyfriend is James Stewart, and this is before Jimmy Stewart was huge.
Right.
It's one of his first roles. He's not even a major character in this. And he's in love with her, but she wants to be a star, and she does everything. And then Judy Garland she just loves the stage, and her dad pushes her. And it's all aspects of stage production is showcased in this, from behind the scenes music to choreography to teaching the girls to walk downstairs with books on their heads, to every little thing that goes into production can be seen in this movie. And stage production, and I love that. And but it also has beautiful women and great men and amazing stories that intertwine with each other. So it is a beautifully woven tapestry of storytelling. So
I agree. I've only seen this movie once, and it's been a long time ago, but I really liked it, and I was amazed by the stars in it. I was like, hold it, what? I mean, this is an all-star cast. This is amazing. So
the biggest star in it at the time was Judy Garland.
Right.
She was coming off of The Wizard of Oz.
Right. Yep.
She's still considered a child actress, even though she wasn't.
Right.
They pushed that point to this in this movie. She's one of the youngest in the movie and all this stuff. But she's really actually not in real life. She was older than Lana Turner.
Right. Right.
But she was the star. But when you look at it, look at who's in it. You have Hedy Lamarr, you have Lana Turner, you have James Stewart, and then if you could look down there, you have Jackie Cooper, you have all of these people.
Right.
Huge.
I agree.
And it's a history, so yeah.
That's a great selection. I'm glad you put that on there. I never can say it quite right, but I'm glad you got it down, because I'm like, oh, that's right. That's how you say it. I also was kind of surprised, not horribly surprised, but a little surprised neither one of us went with a different Judy Garland movie at the same time.
The Meet Me in St. Louis?
Meet Me in St. Louis, which was also a really big movie at the time. It's a great musical, and
it's Vincent, her husband Vincent,
yep.
at the time. Was a huge thing because she's America's sweetheart. Her husband, she got married. Everybody was shocked. She got married. Her husband, Vincent Minnelli, produced it, directed it. It is beautiful. But we did kind of mention it last week when we were talking about, and so that's why it didn't get on my list. But it is a fun movie.
It is a fun movie.
Think of it. It's also based on a true story. But the little girl in it, her sister in it, who Margaret Mitchell plays, her sister in it, and beautiful story. There's the Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas came out of that movie.
Right.
But
right.
In it, they're all having to move right after Christmas. They're afraid they're not going to be there for the World's Fair in St. Louis, which is a big thing in 1904. And Margaret Mitchell's character is the little girl, and she's very, very sad about it. She builds snowmen out, and Judy Garland sings "Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas," which everybody thinks is a sweet song, but if you listen to it, it's not. It is a very depressing song. And she goes out and she destroys the snowman. But there's a scene where she's crying. Margaret Mitchell's crying, and I watched this documentary, and everybody was like, how did you get this child? Like, she's an amazing actress, because like she's just crying on cue, and it's not like a little cry. It is like severe cry. And in this documentary, Margaret says that Vincent Minnelli came to her and told her right before she went on set, told her that her dog died.
Oh, God.
She her to cry.
Oh, wow.
Those tears that you see, like an 8-year-old Margaret Mitchell bawling, those are real tears of sadness and grief.
Right.
And then right after they said cut, he brings her dog out to her and says, "I'm sorry, I just had to get you to get the scene."
As an actor, I have an appreciation for that. But
as a parent, I do not.
Oh, right, exactly. Of course, if I'm making a living off my child being an actor, then maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably not, but
so yeah, next time you watch that movie, the scene where she's sitting there and Judy Garland singing and she's bawling, and you see this grief-stricken child, and you're thinking, she's an amazing actress. She is an amazing actress. She's done so many amazing movies. But that moment is pure grief because she was told her dog died.
Wow. Yeah, that'll do it. Wow.
And she told that story in a TCM documentary that I was watching. They were talking about the movie and stuff like that.
That's fascinating. Well, that one was not on our list, but that's an interesting story with it, because I was kind of surprised they didn't make the list, just knowing, because it is a great movie. So Bill had a comment. Stalker. I'm not quite sure.
We're talking
Well, I'm not sure the reference to that. Of course, we probably got to it after the conversation. So, but yeah. So, all right. So I'll go with my number 2 since we've both done number 1, and you already know what it is. It's no surprise for people that have listened to me talk about my love for certain movies, certain Hitchcock movies. Yes. This is my favorite Hitchcock movie. His first American movie. Alfred Hitchcock made this great thriller called Rebecca. And I was able to actually find it on YouTube and go back and rewatch this.
Laurence Olivier.
Yeah. This movie is awesome. I love I love how the love story develops in this, and how she's so worried that he's just basically showing her charity through the whole thing.
She thinks she's ugly.
Subpar.
She's not worthy of this great man, and it's actually an amazing tale that, one, she is worthy, he's not worthy of her.
Right.
2, the intrigue of it, and the suspense, but not in a suspenseful way. It's like it's like a romance that has a hidden mystery.
Yes.
And it's one of I agree, it's one of my favorite Alfred Hitchcock movies of all times. I'm trying to think of what would be number 1, and it actually might be number 1, but it's always one that I list up there because I just think it's underappreciated.
Right. And agreed.
The thing about it is it's not just underappreciated. A lot of people don't even know it exists because he has so many movies like The Birds.
Right.
You know what I mean? But that came later. This is also, like you said, his first American movie.
Right.
So,
yeah, it's not Psycho. It's not The Birds. It's not even Rear Window, which is also another great movie.
Great one.
I mean, all those movies are fantastic. I just really love Rebecca. I love the way it develops the story. I love the fact that you're taking somebody who is not used to a life of having money. She's actually traveling. She's a travel companion for a rich old lady who thinks she's still all that, which is hysterical. That part, I forgot how funny that was that the older lady that she's traveling with thinks she can get her love interest. Yeah, I was just like, oh my gosh, that's hysterical. And so you've got all this stuff going on, and the first 45 minutes is just basically developing the characters and kind of telling their story, how you get there before you even get to the house where all this stuff takes place.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's layers upon layers of execution.
Yeah, it is.
It's not, but it's not a slow burn.
It's not a slow burn at all.
Yeah. But no, it's beautiful. I love that, and I knew that was going to be on your list. That's why I didn't make my list, because I already knew it was going to be on your list. I already knew where it was going to be on your list because I knew Casablanca was your number 1, and I knew that was your number 2.
Yeah, it certainly is.
Very, very well. I know him very well. So,
well, and the housekeeper, Mrs. Danvers, that character, wow, you just instantly do not like her, and she just continues to show you why. And it's almost trying to make Mrs. Winters crazy. Like she's actually thinking
that's what she's doing. Like it's literally, it's a loyalty that she has, but at the same time, she enjoys this manipulation and this messing with this poor girl's mind.
Right.
I always said, and then this is a Harry Potter reference. So she is literally, before Harry Potter, was my most hated character of all time. And then when I watched Harry Potter, of course, Umbridge is my most hated character of all time. I like Voldemort more than I love Umbridge.
Well, Voldemort's a straightforward villain for you. He's not making any bones about it.
Voldemort has a genuine, yes, it's self-interest, but he has a genuine reason for his evil, and she just doesn't.
Right. Well, and she does it all manipulatively
Yeah.
and tries to look. I mean, yeah. So we can go on and on about her. But
So-
Mrs. Danvers is a great antagonist character in this movie. And you know, the whole idea that you're trying to make the new Mrs. Winters feel like not only is she not good enough, which you constantly are reminding her of, but either that she's crazy or there's really a ghost in the house or whatever. It's
better than any character. Yeah.
Yeah. So to me, this is just a great movie. I when I went and watched it, I just had joy that I was watching it again because I'm like, I haven't seen it in years, and then I was like, oh my gosh, I found it online.
Have you read the book?
I have not read the book. I would love to read the book.
Well, I'll tell you what, Professor, you will get the book for Christmas.
All right.
I have it at the store, so I will.
Well, now we're talking because that would be really cool. So yeah, and for people that don't know, best picture, best cinematography of 1940. So won 2 Oscars, nominated for 13. So
it was huge. And consider this, like this wasn't his first film ever, but this is the first introduction that America had to Alfred Hitchcock.
Right.
For a film to be that critically acclaimed, this is why he was allowed to do what he was allowed to do afterwards.
Right.
If he wouldn't have been this critically acclaimed, he wouldn't have been able, because they gave him carte blanche to do a lot of things.
Right.
Because they knew he was good at it.
You think about Psycho, probably arguably his most famous movie, and the studio didn't want to make Psycho at all.
But
because they had no faith in it.
Because it's Hitchcock, they did it.
Right.
They had to fight for it, but they did it. And I think without the success of Rebecca, Hitchcock wouldn't have been able to do half the stuff he did.
I agree with that, most definitely. So we've had a couple of Betty Davis movies, a couple of Humphrey Bogart movies. We throw in a Hitchcock movie.
We put Vincent Price in there.
Vincent Price, Judy Garland.
Judy Garland, Hedy Lamarr.
And a couple of Hedy Lamarr ones, which makes me really happy. So, because she's actually such a cool. She is not just a pretty face. She's a very pretty face. She's gorgeous.
Have you watched the documentary about her?
I've seen some documentaries. I don't know if I've seen the one you're talking about. Though.
They're about the tapes, like her tape conversations.
No, I've not seen that.
I don't know what it's called, but it was on Netflix this summer, during quarantine, and who watched it? So
I'll need to check that out because she's such a fascinating person, so smart, so just a cool person. So I'm
get paid for her invention.
Right.
Not that she didn't want to. She should have.
Right.
But because of all that, and the tapes are about that. They're about like. Not only that, but just about her life and stuff like that. And she lived a really long life, and it's just her life story is an amazing tale. So she's one of
That's awesome. Yeah, I what I've seen documentary-wise talking about her, I've always just been fascinated. And then I love any sort of like time travel thing that actually pops in and brings her in. They had an episode of the much maligned, but still, to me, a very fun show being Legends of Tomorrow. They had an episode where they brought her in, where they try and travel back then. Fascinating. Really kind of a fun tribute to her, and it was great. So anyway.
Look at that. We're a little over time, but we're not a lot over time.
Yeah, compared to last week.
Well, last week we were trying to do a whole decade and a half, and that's
2 decades actually doing it because we had some stuff from 1920, we had some stuff in 1939, so 2 full decades there. Yeah. So I don't know if we'll do 45 through 49 next week. We might, and also we may step out of this and do something else and then come back to it. But we'll definitely be hitting those time frames.
Yes, we will.
And there's some great movies there.
I also, before this month is over, because it is Halloween month, and it's my favorite month. It's my favorite Halloween. It's my favorite holiday of all time. So I want us to do a horror movie or a horror themed thing. I've got Shmoo says he's in, of course, and then I have a friend of mine from the movie theater when I used to work at the movie
Yes.
theater, Judith, also known as Ira, does Horror Movie Junkie, and they are on Instagram and stuff. And I invited them to.
Oh, perfect.
So.
Perfect.
And I know
Well,
Ashley likes horror too. So.
she does very well. She's written some stories with that. So yes, yeah, we definitely can do that. So I don't know if we want to try to shoot for that next week or I'm open.
Probably the week after, right before Halloween.
Right. Okay. That works for me. So, but yeah, we can definitely do that. It'll be interesting because the things I like horror wise are going to be different than a lot of people. So
Professor's not a horror movie person.
I'm not a blood and guts slasher movie person. Yes. I actually really do like the first Nightmare on Elm Street, but
Rebecca will be on his list.
Rebecca will be on my list. Alien will be on my list.
There you guys go.
So
I just think it would be fun to talk about some stuff and what we like about them and which ones we think people should watch if there's anything like that. So that's one of the things that I think we should do this before November.
No, I agree. Maybe we should also, along with that, because it's a part of the horror genre, but do just overall monster movies because it's time for the Monster Mash.
It is. So why don't we do that next week?
Yeah.
Pick our movies next week.
Now we're talking.
Then we bring in everybody else. We might bring in somebody next week for our monster movie.
Anybody that wants to come in for monster movies, let's do the Monster Mash next week and talk some monster movies. Wow,
it's gonna be hard, Professor.
Oh my gosh, I know. Just on the genre of vampires, I could have 20.
We could, me and you. We'll do this. Why don't we split up some of these monsters?
Define monster.
Like, why don't we split up some of these monsters? Like you'll take a couple, and I'll take a couple, and we'll pick out our favorite movies.
There we go. That'll work. We will figure that out. But we'll do the Monster Mash next week, and that'll be fun to help celebrate for Halloween. And then we'll do the full-on Halloween movies, and Now, does the 30-minute Fat Albert Halloween special count?
I mean, it says Halloween. If we're going to go there, does the Great Pumpkin Charlie?
Yes. No, we'll stick to movies. All right.
Yeah. But both of those are really good if you haven't seen them. So.
Well, it's been many, many years since I've seen the Fat Albert one, but I do love me some good Fat Albert. So. Exactly.
Now you're going to have him saying the things you put into this man's head.
Well, if you start singing the theme song, that's really when you know you've got it. So.
Oh, this is so much fun. Okay, guys. Well, I'm going to have to get off here. So, but before we do, let's say shout outs to some of our friends. Like at first I wanted to say a shout out. I know we don't have a banner or anything, and I don't know all the information, but horror junkies, I think is what it is. I'll find it and I'll put it in the thing. But
we'll get it up here for next week. But do a Google search for horror junkies.
Yeah, on Instagram. So, but yeah, horror movie junkie I think is what they go by. But amazing, and they do all kinds of like pics of movies they like and stuff like that. So, but let's say give a little shout out to our friends Keith and Gary over at Pop Culture Minefield. That's on YouTube. They also do some things on Facebook and stuff as well. Now, Keith and Gary are not always PG-13, but they're always funny and they're always entertaining, and they give great information and scoops on entertainment, what's going on right now in the entertainment world. So,
and one of the scoops they had back in May seems to be coming to fruition. They had a scoop about Spider-Man having a Spider-Verse live-action movie, and all the signs point that they were exactly right when they scooped it back then.
Yep. Their scoops they know a lot of people, and so their information is not just them pulling fan theories out their, heads and I almost said
or wherever.
Because we are PG-13. No,
Oh, one word during the thing. That's okay.
he has to keep me on track because I literally curse a lot. But go check them out and say hi to them and let them know that we sent you over there. But remember, when you're checking out our friends or our site, go give subscribes, likes, all of that stuff. That helps us out so much to know that what we're doing you like and you're enjoying it. So
right, because if not, then we may just change and do something completely different.
that's
Like this is our favorite fonts, since nobody seems to like our favorite movies.
I could actually do one. Such a nerd. Oh, professor. Why you keep me around? See, we have favorite fonts.
Find it.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Also, guys, we gotta get this another two amazing bunch of nerds, and there are two that are just really cool guys, and that is Tim and Josh over at Nerd Informants. You can find them on Facebook. I know they're on Facebook, YouTube. They do a podcast, and they're a little behind on their episodes. Like, they started a couple weeks after we did, but we've had some that we've skipped, and so I think they might be catching up with us. But they have a Facebook page and everything just for their fans, and those guys are funny. So
they are. They're great.
And then we have the scallywag himself, and you can hear him in my background. But that is over at Scallywag Productions on YouTube, and he does all kinds of movie reviews and stuff, and he all kinds of weird things. If it's weird, he'll do a video about it. If you have an idea for a video you want him to do, send it to him. But yeah, go check him out. He's also on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And the world.
And the world. And we've got a few comments here real quick, kind of involving that. So, Bill.
I wonder what the whom's for.
I don't know.
What's the whom?
But here you go. Frankenspoo. That's a great one. I like that. And then PG-13 and a half. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got to get that half in there. Yeah. And all right, so those are our comments, but make sure to check out our website, GeekyKOOL.com, because we have new articles, new stuff going on all the time. In fact, I just found the trailer for the Netflix Rebecca remake, so I'm going to post that. That looks pretty good. It's not going to be as good as the original, just because, but
it's a remake.
Exactly.
Stories that are like, I'm always cool when they make movies from books, and that's a great book. So I look forward to it. I knew they were doing it. I haven't seen the trailer, so I'll check that out. But yeah, check us out on Facebook, YouTube, our own website. Subscribe. You can subscribe on our website to get articles, and we don't bother you with a lot of stuff, but we'll send you stuff when there's an update or a new article. Right. But Facebook, give us a like and everything, and yeah, let us know what you think of what we do.
Right. All right. Tell us what you want to hear. If you want to hear some list of some sort that we've not done, let us know, because we seem to like lists a lot. I don't know.
I just think they're fun and they're easy, and they're not political, and they're not current event-ish. And right now, current events make me a little sad. So I will talk about old movies all day long just to bring some happiness into my life. So. Yep,
and we promise to always be better than the debates. So there you go.
That wasn't my promise. I have never promised anything.
We couldn't be any worse than that mess. Come on. I mean, I don't care who you're rooting for. That's a cluster. Come on.
Did you hear Shmoo? To be fair, that's not saying much.
I know, right? I'm just aiming right above the gutter. That's as much as we're promising it's above that. I don't know.
He's dating me. I don't know what that says. I don't know what that says about me. That's okay.
You're awesome. You are amazing, Ace. So, all right. Well, we'll call it a show and call it a wrap. Glad to see you guys. Thank you for joining us over here. There we go. Stay geeky, and we'll see you next week. We will talk monsters.
Bye, guys.